So then I went back on the ferry and went back to Battery Park and picked up my bike tools from the security guards, and then I got on my bike, and then I headed over towards the Brooklyn Bridge, because this is when my real plan for the day started, and it was already about 3 in the afternoon, or maybe 3:30 or something, but it was really late, and I still had lots to do. So my plan was to go across the Brooklyn Bridge on my bike, and to look around Brooklyn a little bit, and then to come back to Manhattan on the Manhattan Bridge. So on my way to the Brooklyn Bridge, I saw this, on the street that I was on, I saw this a bike that was locked up, and it had a quilted cover over it, and it was just exactly the same as what I had seen on Wednesday when I went to Brooklyn the first time. And it said it was a much smaller bike, and it was parked somewhere, and I don't know, it was neat to see. I have no idea what practical purpose that had other than being decorative, but it was neat to see. And right near there I also saw a restaurant which was called Good Burger, which is a movie of that same name, and it features a restaurant that has no relation at all to New York, but someone's used that name, I guess, and opened a burger restaurant. It even has the slogan right from the movie, "Welcome to Good Burger, home of the Good Burger," on the outside of it. So that was neat to see. I didn't go and eat anything there, but I might go back at some point. So anyways, I crossed the Brooklyn Bridge on my bicycle, and that was pretty neat. I had already crossed it on my by walking it on Wednesday, but seeing it from the biker's perspective was a little bit different, and it was kind of neat. People that go on the Brooklyn Bridge like to go really fast on their bikes. I wasn't particularly one of them, but I could see where the temptation to do that came from, because you climb up, once you go up, you're climbing up quite high to get to the middle of the bridge, and then once you're at the middle, then it's this long gradual downhill, because the bridge is so high up to get back to the ground, you got to go down. So there's definitely the encouragement to go fast coming down that section. And when I went across the first time, I saw that some of the bikers had whistles in their mouths. And if there was someone that was like a tourist or something, was kind of standing in their lane or something, and they were coming along and they didn't want to have to stop, they'd blow their whistle and try and scare them away, which I guess was more effective than just ringing a bell or blowing a horn or something that you usually do when riding a bike. But anyways, so it was a little bit different seeing it from the bike. And after I got to Brooklyn, I went down and I went to the Brooklyn Bridge Park, which is a very new park, which is right on the water, right I guess to the west of where the Brooklyn Bridge is, and it gives a nice view of it and a nice view of the skyline of New York from a slightly different angle than what I was seeing from Liberty Island. So I got some footage from that. And I continued on along the west side. There was a bike path continued in the west direction along the shoreline, and I followed it, and I saw this really neat highway, or set of highways that were kind of on the shore. Right on that shoreline, it's quite a steep cliff kind of thing that happens right at the edge of Brooklyn. And I guess it's the Brooklyn Heights neighborhood. It's really elevated high above the water. But along there, they had this highway that they had cars going in different directions that were kind of stacked on top of each other. The rows were stacked on top of each other. And there was 4 different layers. There was a bottom one that was going west, and there was a second elevated one that was also going west, but I think it was going a little bit faster. And then above that, there was one that was going east, which was also going fast. And then above that, there was a pedestrian place where people were walking, and that actually was when I went up there actually afterwards. And it's called the Brooklyn Heights Promenade. So there's really 4 layers of stuff going on there. They're not completely on top of each other. They're kind of set up as stairs, but it's really neat to see from below how they incorporated a highway into the side of a really steep hill. So as I said, yeah, I went to the end, and then as soon as there was an option for me to turn left, I went up the street, and it was a really steep street. Then I got up to the street that was up there, and I turned, and then I turned again, and then I went to the promenade, and then I rode all along the promenade and got some more good shots from up there. And I guess that's the Brooklyn Heights neighborhood, which looked like a really nice neighborhood. So after that, I wanted to go over and see the Manhattan Bridge a little bit before I crossed it. So I drove around on the roads that were kind of underneath that bridge, and that area of Brooklyn, that area of town, goes by the name of DUMBO, D-U-M-B-O, the letters, all caps. And the reason it has that name is because it's an acronym that stands for Down Under Manhattan Bridge Overpass. So its name describes exactly what it is. It's the roads that are all under the little village or the little neighborhood that's right underneath, directly underneath the Manhattan Bridge Overpass. So I looked around there a little bit. I got lots of footage of the bridge from underneath. One thing I saw when I was going underneath, there was people that they had a canoe that they were taking out of the water. So they must have just been canoeing out somewhere in the harbor, which I thought would have been really cool to do, to see New York from a canoe. Although maybe not the most safe thing to do, especially when big boats go past and there's huge waves and you wouldn't want to tip over in your canoe in New York Harbor. So after exploring down there, I followed the signs that showed me how to get onto the Manhattan Bridge as a cyclist, and so I crossed the bridge, and it was a lot different than the Brooklyn Bridge. The Manhattan Bridge is it was built maybe many years, almost 40 or 50 years, I think, after the Brooklyn Bridge was built, and it has multiple layers. It has a few layers of cars, I guess, go in different directions. And it also has subways, which go in both directions. And there's 2 tracks, I think, of subways on each side. So 4 different subway tracks on there. And those subways are just so loud. Every time one goes past, it's just like a rocket goes through. It's just so loud. And you could pretty much hear it the whole time I was going around it below in Dumbo. And I bet you need hearing protection if you're staying in that area for too long. And what was different about this bridge was that the Brooklyn Bridge, the bike path and the walking path, is right in the middle of the bridge. It's elevated above the cars, which are lower down. And on the Manhattan Bridge, the bike path is pushed off to one side. It's like right on the very edge of the bridge, and there's a big chain link fence over one side. You can't really get a great view of anything from that bridge, just because there's this big fence covering most of what you can see. But it's still a pretty neat bridge. It has these huge pillars, just like the Brooklyn Bridge has, except these ones are made out of metal. And well, this bridge carries at least double the weight that the Brooklyn Bridge has, because it has so many more layers. So I'm sure it's a lot more strong. The real reason I wanted to go on this bridge, or the real significance to me of this bridge, was that the designer of the Manhattan Bridge was also the designer that, after building that bridge, he went on to design the bridge in Tacoma, Washington, the Tacoma Narrows Bridge, the original Tacoma Narrows Bridge, which was an infamous bridge because shortly after it was constructed, in a big windstorm, it had a torsion action that happened to the bridge caused by the wind, and the bridge eventually failed and caused a big mess. And I'm not sure if anyone died in that disaster, but it certainly was, after many years of building a bridge, it's certainly disappointing to see it collapse shortly after it has been built. So I decided I wanted to go on at least one of his bridges, the one that lasted, and I was hoping that it was going to last for the duration of me walking across it. But thinking about it, it seemed a little bit dangerous, considering his awful failure on his other bridge. So when I got to the other end of the Manhattan Bridge, it comes out on the Manhattan side, pretty much right in the edge of Chinatown. And by that point, I was feeling quite hungry, having not eaten breakfast and eating a sausage around 1 o'clock or 12:30 or so. By this point, it was already like 5:30 or something, and I was feeling quite hungry. So I decided I'd get something from Chinatown and see what New York's Chinatown was like. It was really cool. I mean, there's so many buildings that had Chinese writing on them, and so I went to a little Chinese restaurant, one of many. I don't know how I chose which one I wanted. I just kind of guessed one that looked like it would be good, and the food was really good. I ended up getting seafood fried rice, and it was very good and quite inexpensive as well. Enjoyed that meal. when I was in Chinatown, right outside the restaurant, actually, I saw one of the original models of Fiat 500s, the old little car that they just remade recently, or they've just recently started selling again in North America. So that was neat seeing that. Really small car. So after eating dinner, I had all these places that I still needed to do, all these plans.